Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Now, our next speaker is dialing in all the way from the US. Allow me to introduce Michael Chong, futurist and author of Ubertrends USA, on his topic on digital blooming in an unpredictable world, where he highlights on rapidly evolving market values while making smart innovation decisions. Over to you, Michael.
Hello, Malaysia. It's my task today to open your eyes, broaden your vistas, and help you see the big picture. But before we begin, please don't forget to give the event a shout out using the hashtag MTM2021, and my handle is UberCool. When I first set foot in Malaysia in 2005, I was amazed by Putrajaya. And I remember Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamed's 1999 vision of making Putrajaya part of Malaysia's multimedia super corridor, a hub for innovative multimedia producers that would leapfrog Malaysia into the information age. Now, 20 years later, here we stand at the threshold of turning Malaysia into the heart of digital ASEAN. To achieve that objective, you Malaysian startups are going to play a key role. I know from having founded 4 startups myself, it's not an easy job. It's like a roller coaster ride with many ups and downs. At this point, you're probably wondering, well, what makes you qualified, mister? Well, I founded 4 companies that help push the innovation envelope in desktop publishing, CRM, internet analytics, and digital marketing. And this presentation is loosely based on my book, Ubertrends. Ladies and gentlemen, a tsunami is coming and the world is unprepared. Ubertrends lets you dive into 8 huge waves that are crashing into our future. It's a database study of the fast-flowing currents of change caused by technology, evolving consumer expectations, and disruptive innovations. In a world that urgently demands more innovation, it's crucial to master the tidal wave of value changes engulfing society today. And that brings me to the #1 reason startups fail. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, #1, believe it or not, is no market need, according to CB Insights, who analyzed 378 startup failures and found that this was well ahead of ran out of cash at 29%. Now, I'm not going to dwell on funding and team and marketing issues. There's not enough time today, but I will focus here on the first and last reason shown: user experience, user interface, and that market need question. So now you know why I wrote in my book that the successful companies of tomorrow will address the changing consumer values of today. It may sound obvious and trite. It does, doesn't it? But the reality is that in our world, it is littered with brands that forgot that simple saying. And that is, a key message of this brand graveyard from my book. Think about it. More than half of blue chip brands have either gone bankrupt, been acquired, or ceased to exist as a result of digital disruption. In the background is a picture I took of the last Blockbuster video rental store, which is in Bend, Oregon, and has become a major tourist attraction if you ever get there. It's a curious artifact of our past times. But look at the quote by Blockbuster CEO Jim Keyes, who said in December of 2008 to Motley Fool, neither Redbox or Netflix are even on our radar screen. Oh my goodness. Now the whole world streams and Blockbuster is a relic of the past. I gotta give this a thinking emoji, although you know as well as I do that I want to express it much more strongly. Like Netflix, you are in a great position to disrupt the world. Let me explain why with some numbers to give you some context. The last time Dun & Bradstreet released an update, it found 330 million businesses in its worldwide database. And the growth of startups has been phenomenal. According to F6S, which is based in London, the number of startups worldwide has soared from less than 500,000 in 2016 to 1.5 million today, the last time they released data in May. By the way, that's co-founder Michelle Perkins in the background, who is the billionaire today thanks to her Australian startup Canva. If you haven't used Canva, you absolutely must, because it is a very cool design tool. Now, let's take those numbers and put it in context. You are in the top 0.5% of your class as a startup. Now, the numbers I contrasted may not be truly comparable, but let me show you that they actually are pretty right on the money. More than 1 in 20 adults, according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which measured 7 economies around the world, including Canada, South America, and the United Arab Emirates, 1 in 20 adults are starting and running a business with new products or services that are at least new to the local area. So put that number into context, will you? That shows you, again, that you are an elite company, okay? Because you remember, you're 0.5 compared to the local entrepreneurs. But why did Malaysia not participate in the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, huh? Why not? Can we fix that, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation? I think we should. Now, to check these numbers against a close neighbor of yours, India, you can see that it parallels what we found, even though their startup percentage is a little bit lower than the global average. So again, it is incumbent upon you to be part of that class. And that brings up a good question. Why can't Malaysia lead world innovation? Why can't it? It's a good question, right? Why can't it? When I researched the topic, I found this anonymous post in a user forum. We are as conservative as USA is Christian. Well, I guess that's not very conservative then. Yes, the time is right for the country to step in the limelight. And new venture creation is where it's at. Take a look at the dollars flowing into global startups. We set a record in Q2 last quarter of $156 billion, the highest financing tally in recent memory, according to CB Insights. And startup ventures are the most disruptive forces. They are the source of new employment, new industries, new innovations, and solutions to social and environmental problems. You can see that in this data collected by the World Bank. There are between 365 and 445 million micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in emerging markets, which contribute 60% of employment and 40% of national GDP. So with that kind of pedigree, you can see that it's no surprise that the whole world is feverishly incubating startups, explaining why accelerators and incubators around the world have exploded, going from 7,000, which is the earliest number I could find in 2012, to more than 25,000 today, according to F6S. And startups have so many disruptive innovations and opportunities to pursue, from AI to RPA. Can I tell you a story? It's 2005. We're in Bucharest, and there is an office located at Delia Veche 24, where two entrepreneurs, Daniel Dines and Marius Tika, are hard at work creating software for a company called Deskover. Now, what Deskover does is it builds automation libraries and SDKs for companies like IBM, Google, and embedding it into their own products as well. But it wasn't until 2012, some 7 years later, that they realized, oh my goodness, what we're creating for Microsoft and IBM is RPA. And what is RPA, you ask? Oops, sorry about that. And what is RPA, you ask? I gotta go back. And what is RPA, you ask? Sorry. Go back here. RPA is robotic process automation, and I need a robot to operate this computer right now. RPA emulates the actions of humans interacting with digital applications, capturing data, manipulating the UI, just like humans would. Wow. So you can see, okay, that's why this company is now called UiPath. And the CEO, Daniel Dines and Marius, are two of the world's 582 million global entrepreneurs, which is the class you belong to, right? And now they run Romania's first $1 billion startup. And the global robot RPA software revenue is projected to reach about $2 billion in 2021, a 20% jump from 2020. There was a story in the New York Times just this past March that said, the robots are coming for fill-in accounting. The article features an employee of the month that uses a USB thumb drive as a head, giving you an inkling of what lies in the future. Now, there was a study by two UK researchers at Deloitte, Richard Horton and Justin Watson, who discovered that the use of RPA is already widespread, with 8 in 10 corporate executives saying that they're planning to use this, and 16% saying within 3 years. So that means things are happening. And that also explains why UiPath got over $400 million in funding from such people like Kleiner Perkins and Madrona and Sequoia, which are all blue chip venture capital companies. You know, again, things are moving in this direction. Now you're asking, Michael, where the hell is Romania? Well, it's between Hungary, Moldova, Serbia, and Bulgaria. Which is why they call Romania the hairy armpit of Europe. Joke. LOL. So let's do a population comparison between Malaysia, 32 million, and Romania, 20 million. I can't see why you can't duplicate that success. You are certainly have enough people to do the job, right? McKinsey, which predicted before the pandemic that some 37 million people could lose their job by 2030, increased its projection to 45 million. So again, this is going to change a lot of things, and the groups with the highest exposure to AI and RPA are the better paid, better educated workers in tech and supervisory roles. So you can tell from this analysis that we've got disruption happening, okay? My friends, this is disruption, and it's going to affect us all. Here's another great case study. It's a small village in Ireland called Dromineer. Population 102 people, and 2 blokes. Yeah, that's what they call him in the UK. 2 blokes by the name of Patrick and John Collison laid the foundation for a company called Stripe. And what they realized early on is that in a global economy, with everyone speaking a different language, the goal has to be to simplify the user experience. And that's what they have done with Stripe. And that makes Stripe one of the most valuable startups in America today. It was most valuable in March, but you know how fast things can change. And that's because they stripped out the complexities out of online transactions, making the process of buying very simple online. And you know, we're all buying online. So back in March, they landed a $95 billion valuation, again, making it the most valuable startup in the US, right? So what does CB Insight say about fintech, which is financial technology category that we're talking about here? 1 of every $5 in venture went into fintech. There is no hotter sector in technology right now, is the message. And you can see that from Revolut, which is a UK, London-based startup, which was valued at $33 billion just this month, becoming the UK's biggest ever private company. Wow, it's insane. $33 billion. In my day of startups, I'd be happy with a valuation of 3 million. So let me revisit those top four, and in this case, non-marketing startup pain points. No market need, yes. Lack of funding and team, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but definitely the lack of the intuitive user experience is a must. And you can tell that in a future situation or scene where code factories and robotic programming are, producing code left, right, and center, the user experience is going to be the one thing that sets your application apart from the rest. And that is absolutely key. UE and UI, user experience and user interface, are absolutely number one in my book of what the future holds. And the CEO of InVision said this in 2017 to TechCrunch: the screen is the most important place in the world. And Clark Valberg should know, he runs a company that landed $100 million in funding back then and has grown its user base to more than 7 million people today, more than double the number in 2017. So if you're not using a UI tool like this, you need to get on the bandwagon, because this is what's going to set your app apart from the rest in the future. And please ignore statistics like this, okay? Please, because these 57%, they're nuts, okay? They don't know better. That's why they say they find it easy to use. No, they're not easy to use. And the user experience will jump dramatically in the upcoming years. And look at the usage today of these apps. These mobile apps now average 4.2 hours each day, up 30% from 2019, okay? So please remember what I told you. It is important to really focus on the user experience. And the jump in usage is just one of the dramatic changes brought on by the pandemic, which produced more change in 1 year than in 3 years of normal times, and which helped float the boat of an e-commerce startup like Stripe, of course. But it also drove home the importance of healthcare, making this the best time for a health tech startup. Can I tell you another story? Let me take you to the Petronas Towers, specifically the Malaysian Petroleum Club, located on the 41st floor of the Petronas Tower #2. It's August 2008, and the club is hosting the debut ceremony of the Merdeka Awards, sponsored by Petronas, ExxonMobil, and Shell. One of the first recipients of the Merdeka Award is none other than University of Malaya Professor Tan Chong Tin, Chinese name only, who heads up a team that investigated a new viral outbreak, first detected in late 1998, called the Nipah virus. So even before the emergence of SARS coronavirus 2 in 2020, Malaysia had the infrastructure in place to lead the world in health tech. That's why I believe it should be the #1 place you Malaysian startups should begin exploring innovation. This story is part of my book, Lockdown: How the Coronavirus Escaped Wuhan, China, and Terrorized the World. And I'm making the chapter available for free on my website. But leveraging resources is really the key action item I teach my startups at my University of San Francisco workshops. It is absolutely key that you learn how to leverage outside help, because this is what's going to really guarantee your success. Take a look at health tech and the funding flow, okay? In the pandemic, it went from 1 billion in the entire year of 2011 to nearly $7 billion in just one quarter. Is that growth or what? It's staggering. It's staggering. So, with Malaysia's remarkable skill in assembling digital electronics, I don't see why it cannot create innovative diagnostic tools like this Abbott's ID Now, which is a COVID-19 detection tool, which was developed in record time during the pandemic. There is a supermarket chain in the United States called Kroger, and they co-developed with Gloss a smartphone-enabled COVID-19 antigen test, again, in record time. Could Jaya Grocer be a strategic partner of a similar technology in Malaysia? Tell them that seniors' only shopping hours is just not enough, okay? How about partnering with Maxis? That would be a good strategy, don't you think? Magic would be a really good place to start with ideas like this. And if that doesn't work, fly down to Singapore and talk to Temasek. Nothing is out of your reach if you set your mind to it. And that funny social media share brings me to the digital lifestyle, the marriage of man and machine, and unquestionably the most powerful trend I track in my book of the 8 Ubertrends I track. The computer is becoming us, and we're becoming the computer. Don't believe me? When you get tired, you crash, and you love to multitask. And because you multitask so much, you're forgetting more, so you need memory protection. Those of you in tech know those are the 3 core traits of the CPU, or the central processing unit of a computer. So that means that we are starting to resemble, we are on a convergence path with digital technology. Now you're saying, Michael, what the heck is an Ubertrend? It's a massive wave, think tsunami, that cascades through society, leaving many subtrends in its wake. And what sets Ubertrends apart is that they are changing us as human beings. They lead to fundamental changes in societal values. Most trends merely skim the social surface. So if your product is closely tied to one of the 2 Ubertrends I'm going to talk about here today, then you have a better chance for success, because that is what it is about. Remember that no market need, that number 1 reason for startup failure. You got to tie it to what the market wants. So here is a perfect illustration of the digital lifestyle in action. This teen from Tampa, 16 years old, drops their iPod in the path of an oncoming truck, or lorry, as you call it. Think about it for a split second. She decided to save her iPod. Imagine her thought stream for a moment. My iPod or my life? My iPod or my life? iPod it is. Luckily, she only broke a leg. Police wouldn't tell us who it was or the condition of the iPod. But that's a crazy thing, right? To risk your life for a digital device. That was in 2009. The next year at Christmas time, this picture was taken. Oh, iPhone love. It's enough to make you want to cry. In just 4 years, a phone became the object of lust and affection. And those emoji, they showed up in 2011. And in 2015, Oxford named one Word of the Year. Officially, the emoji is called Face with Tears of Joy, but you know it much better as laughing my ass off. Welcome to the wonderful world of the digital lifestyle, where emojis are the new hieroglyphics. That same year, 2015, Sony released the Emoji Movie, which led a comedian in the United States to joke. At this point, we're just 5 years away from kids asking Mom, what were words? I'm sure you know this gentleman, right? Novak Djokovic. At Wimbledon in 2019, he won 2.4 million pounds. Novak at that time had been laboring since age 4, which is some 28 years, all right, working on tennis. But a kid half his age, Baga Geiersdorf, won $3 million, more money than Novak did at Wimbledon, playing a video game. And the funny part is that, you know, he played it at New York's Arthur Ashe Stadium, where Epic Games hosted its Fortnite World Cup contest. How ironic, right? A few weeks later, Boston Dynamics released a video of its Atlas robot showing off some of its latest tricks. Doesn't that give you shivers? Okay. Wow. My first reaction was, holy crap. There is a scientist in the UK, David Levy, who believes that by 2050, we'll be marrying robots and Massachusetts will be the first state to allow it. Do you think we'll find robot love, anybody? Do you? I see a lot of people in the audience going, no. I'll tell you what. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't knock it until you try it, okay? Check out this news item.
The opening of a small, low-cost hotel doesn't usually warrant international attention, even with gimmicks like drones or the boss arriving via robotic platform. But the Henna Hotel, which translates to strange hotel in Japanese, lives up to its name. Just meet the front desk staff.
Please ask me a request, but don't ask me a difficult question because I am a robot.
Did you hear what the robot just said? Don't ask me any difficult questions. The robots already start to resemble their human counterparts. They're ready for customer service. But the best news is that there is this UK research firm that believes that by 2030, robots will start to replace lawyers. Let's all give a hand for that forecast. And my apologies to any legal counsel present. So here is another trend propelled by the digital lifestyle. Work from home, or WFH. Just a year ago, few people had any clue to what Zoom was. And then the pandemic began, and we all began teleconferencing and virtual conferencing. And before you know it, we were all suffering from Zoom fatigue. Unless, of course, something funny happens like this.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to
can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I can see that you're not a cat.
I can see that.
Hilarity ensues. I'm sure you've heard the buzz about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which have set the whole artworld on fire. Art world on fire. I need more coffee. When you now buy digital art like this shot of
Shoot 38% from downtown. Here comes Al.
of this stuffed basket, it was sold for $213,000 on February 6th via NBA Top Shot. Now, a lot of people say, hey, you know what? I can see LeBron James stuffing baskets all day for free. And why would I? Well, you know, that's part of this whole new NFT culture. Canadian musician Claire Elise Boucher, who's known as Crimes, on February 28th, sold $6 million worth of artwork on Nifty Gateway, a startup that was founded only in 2018 for this specific purpose. But that is not enough. Grimes was topped by the digital illustrations from a certain Mike Winkelmann, better known as Beeple, who sold $60 million collage of art on March 9th. Wow, isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane? Now, you're probably saying, why are people spending this kind of money on stuff that I can download for free? We're starting a new trend, and it's called the digitization of assets. And that is what makes this so significant. Now, here's another trend propelled by the pandemic and the digital lifestyle. A 285% increase in search interest in takeout or takeaway, as you call it in Malaysia, across the US last March, due to the pandemic, of course. So this past December, this YouTube star, Mr. Beast, who today has 66 million subscribers, announced that he just literally opened 300 restaurants all across America. 300. He was referring to the launch of a virtual restaurant chain called Mr. Beast Burger. And that was all made possible by a Los Angeles-based startup called Virtual Dining Concept. The concept behind this new business is called Ghost Kitchen, which is instrumental in the emergence of this whole new trend called ghost franchises. Yes, we're becoming entirely virtual. Remember what I said, the computer is becoming us, we're becoming the computer. So think about that. That same type of technology powers restaurants like Hotbox by Wiz, which is from rapper Wiz Khalifa, and which is ghosted by Denver-based Next Bite, another pioneer of the model. This startup raised $120 million in VC funding in October 2020 for its 13 virtual brands. What you're seeing here is a concept that dates back to 1967 called disintermediation, which was first used by the banking industry, but really took off during the 1990s dot-com boom, when the idea fueled many an internet startup. So the thought started for the digital lifestyle is that we're rewriting the rules of innovation. As technology becomes more tightly interwoven with the fabric of life, the dominant values ruling this tech-infused age are connectivity, convergence, and convenience. Remember that. Those are the three value changes you really need to address. And you need to also address one called time savings, because my next Uber trend is time compression. I don't need to tell you that everything is going faster these days. I call this phenomenon the time compression Ubertrend, the acceleration of life. Remember playing with those gnarly Rubik's Cubes as a kid? Remember that? Watch this kid for a moment. Five seconds. He solved it in 5 seconds. Can you believe it? I'd still be adjusting my pants. Time compression really begins with this gentleman in Germany called Karl-Heinz Brandenburg. Karl-Heinz Brandenburg developed the MP3 codec, one of the first popular compression decompression algorithms, things that are able to compress more data into smaller packages. And he was inspired apparently by Suzanne Vega, Tom's Diner album. And that's why people now call Suzanne Vega the mother of MP3. And MP3 became so popular that by 1999, according to Nielsen Net Ratings, the search term MP3 was more popular than sex. You got it. That's remarkable, right? What? A codec? A nerdy term more popular than sex? Yeah. See, codecs lie in the eye of the time compression storm. And they are being accelerated around the periphery by four forces: the internet, startups, vast financing of VC money, and AI and machine learning. This joke explains this concept best. I put instant coffee in the microwave oven. I almost went back in time. That is what Stephen Wright said one year, and I think it beautifully summarizes the time compression Ubertrend. Helps explain it, right? You know the concept of idea viruses, right? They travel as fast as the coronavirus and spread ideas around the globe. Well, these viruses now move at 200,000 kilometers per second. Okay, according to my calculations, which is the average internet bandwidth. And we've got all of these venture money flowing to startups that are investing all their money into machine learning and AI, which, according to my estimate, will quadruple the speed of bringing innovations to market. And for me, I can't wait, okay? And I'm apparently not alone. According to Google, searches for open now have tripled in the past 2 years, while searches for store hours have dropped. I don't care what your store hours are. Are you open now? That's what I want to know. I am instant gratification personified. And that's also the trend behind all of these instant delivery services that you're seeing around, okay? That's the grocery delivery business that is being propelled by time compression. Getter, an Istanbul startup, promises to deliver in just 10 minutes and has raised $1 billion in just 6 months. Nazim Salur, the founder of Getter, which means bring in Turkish, says it's a race against time. And that is time compression personified. So the thought starter for the time compression Ubertrend is, time compression has bred a multitasking generation that's in love with instant gratification. It's a world that treasures speedy, efficient services that are simple to understand because I have zero bandwidth to better manage my increasingly valuable disposable time. Now you know why one of the top trending topics on LinkedIn these days is change readiness. Are you ready for change? Good. You ought to be. A lot of change is coming. I hope I gave you a big bump today. It was my job to inspire and prepare you for the future. But please keep in mind that there's one absolutely critical ingredient for success in innovation, and that's having an open mind. I want you to remember the words of the immortal Robin Williams, a famous American comedian, who once said, "I went to rehab in the wine country just to keep my options open." I want you to have that kind of open mind. I thank you so much for giving me a tiny slice of your time to listen to this message. Please join my sphere of influence. I am ubercool on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, or send me an email at mt@michaelchong.com, and I'd be happy to help you 24/7, 365. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Michael, for that extremely entertaining yet insightful delivery of the various Ubertrends out there, and even localizing some of the examples for us from a Malaysian perspective. Now, I know it's impossible not to be drawn into your infectious laughter and jocular style of presentation, which is inimitable. So we truly hope to host you in Malaysia once the borders reopen, Michael. Thank you so much for that very entertaining presentation earlier on. Now, next up, esports, the digital economy game changer, is coming right up. Join us, but first, do remember to fill up the survey form for this session, and we'll see you soon.